Sadtu General-Secretary Mugwena Maluleke joining us. Mr. Maluleke, good morning to you. Always a pleasure speaking to you. I imagine you, many educators and parents disappointed by this postponement today.
Good morning and thanks for having us, Gareth. And indeed, we are very disappointed about the postponement. We had thought that we can get clarity around a number of things surrounding education. We know that the government is under pressure to do everything it can to ensure that we are able to flatten the curve. However, we would have loved to hear what the ministers were going to say.
What's the latest that you've been hearing from within inside your circles? Many people are asking the question, are we going to be writing off this academic year? What's your feeling?
Well, as you are aware, we have sent statements and submissions last week in the context of the alert 4 of the virus, where we were making some proposals in terms of what must happen in order for us not to lose the entire academic year. And when we're indicating those essentials that were non-negotiables that the department has to be able to provide in order to ensure that we are also helping in the fight against the spread of this virus, but at the same time trying to ensure that there are those learners who can be assisted to proceed with their education. So from our circles, really there was no view about cancelling the academic year. It was a view that can we still be able to save some of the areas, in particular grades that needs particular skills because they're transiting from one system to the other.
In your understanding, Mr. Maluleke, of level 4, which will come into effect unless it changes, the 1st of May, your understanding of level 4, do you see a place within level 4 where education can start to be phased back in? Are the strategies in place to allow for that?
In terms of our statement that we released, basically we were worried about stage 4. We were saying that under stage 4, there's still a lot of limitation and restrictions in terms of movement, but also you are going to have a problem with the issue of social distancing in our schools. And therefore, we were saying if ever the schools were going to be reopened, we should be having clear plans in terms of how many learners we can be able to accommodate. However, to answer your question straight is that under level 4, you will not be able to have the schools reopened. You will not be ready from our side, but we did not know what the government's decision was going to be. But from our own assessment and our own interaction with some medical experts was that it is not going to be possible to reopen some of the schools unless you would be able to have fewer learners in the school, and therefore you are able to recognize and make sure that the social distancing is strictly adhered to and all the essentials are there, but you cannot have the whole schools reopening. So you have got to phase in particular grade, and that particular grade would therefore have to be spread around the whole school in order to ensure that there is no possibility of endangering the teachers and the learners. So the answer is that level 4 would not be able to have schools reopened.
That's a point I wanted to ask you about. I have read through the statement this morning and some of the advisories and your calls for the departments to comply with certain regulations, fumigation, disinfection, food management, etc. There is the one point, though, number 8, the 1.2 to 1.5 meter social distancing inside the classroom. Mr. Maluleke, I'm sure you as well as anybody knows how crammed many schools in this country are. It just doesn't seem practical to try and social distance inside a classroom. How would that even work?
Yeah, how we proposing that it has always been that we want to engage in the Department of Education around possibility of the phase-in and the staggering of the grades in order to ensure that those grades that are there are able to have more classrooms, and also that it's linked to the fact that there should be more teachers who are able to divide the learners into some few classrooms in order to ensure that used classrooms that normally a teacher teacher is facing doesn't face. Clearly, yes, it looks impractical. However, it is informed by the fact that we really are trying to ensure that if our learners are at school, we can then be able to help them not to really be infected and so forth. But there are other means. If there are extraordinary measures that can be taken in the form of masks and over and above that, additional screening that are provided for the desks, so that then there is no touch. You know how learners like to touch each other. Then that kind of a 1.2, 1.5 could then be relaxed in a way, as long as you know that you have taken extraordinary measures over and above the masks, over and above the sanitizers, but obviously changing how the learners are sitting in the classroom. But clearly you cannot have that. You cannot afford that. That's impossible. Even if you were to provide those particular screens for the desk, you still have got to reduce the class sizes.
I appreciate your time this morning. Sadtu General-Secretary speaking to us, Mr. Mugwena Maluleke.